on there, which was speaking upon a black man and word from the wise. You know, he was trying to get his feet wet as a producer as well. So he had some beats. We liked them, and it was like we gonna use them. You know,
Right.
I mean, pretty much it was a good time, man. You know, the second record was a little bit more of sophomore jinx. Let's see,
We'll get into that in just a
yeah,
minute.
but
Was
the first
Holy
record was fun.
was Holy Intellect the first single, or was Rock This Funky Joint the first single?
Actually, time to say peace was.
Right.
No,
And
because
then
we make rock this funky joint until we actually got the deal. You
okay.
made rock this funky joint, and the people chose rock this funky joint because we was so much into like, knowledge itself and teaching and doing what we was doing. We was thinking like holy intellect, word from the wise, but people was riding by in their car like bunch, bunch, bunch. This is it. This the one. You know, people stopping us saying this the one. So
Right.
like, okay, let's go. Let's go that way. You know what I mean?
So
So
that was released after the album had already hit the streets.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This funky joint came a little bit after the album was released. Like the people chose that one. You know,
Okay.
and then Holy Intellect was shot after that by a girl from MTV. She
Okay.
she they hired her to shoot that Holy Intellect. It looked a little bit more polished.
Right. So
Yeah.
tell me, after Rock This Funky Joint is picked up by Yo MTV Raps and is in heavy rotation as well as Rap City, how does life change for Culture Freedom?
It changed in a couple different ways. You know what I mean? Um, the bread wasn't all that huge, but it was just like, like anything you do, you work hard with, and you finally get an opportunity. It's kind of like validation. It was kind of like surreal at the same time because it was like, nah, this didn't just happen to us. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of groups in the area that was doing music and rapping and stuff like that, and we were a part of that younger generation, that next generation. You know what I'm saying? So, for us to kind of get a deal and do whatever, it still seemed kind of like unreal. You know what I mean? People be like, "Yo, man, I heard that. That's dope, man. Y'all dope." And it's be like, you just walk away like, "Whoa, like this is really real. Like people really like what we doing." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So just, I mean, we still was still living in the prior projects on that record. We didn't like, big houses, no big cars, no big chains or nothing like that, because by that point, from being out on the street, we had experienced a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? This was more about just trying to change our life for the better, and trying to move in another direction. You know what I'm saying? Like we had a legit job making records, you know what I mean? People sending cars to pick you up, and stuff like that, you know, uh, limousines, things like that, it was like, oh, okay, you know, just stuff like that. Become meeting some of the favorite rappers that you like since you was a kid, some of them looking at you as competition. It's like, oh yeah, really? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like your whole perspective change on what you thought it would be like to be in the game and be around these folks to what it was really like. Like, on our album release party, KRS came there passing out flyers with the original teacher on it. You
Mm,
That was an eye-opening moment for me because I was like, this here's somebody that, I basically kind of looked up to, but you coming to our party like looking like, oh, y'all the poor righteous teacher. Well, I'm the original teacher. So, at that point, we wasn't like afraid of nobody. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, we was like, okay, if that's how it is, then all right. So that was part of our motivation going in the studio on the next record. It was like, there's some brotherhood here, but it's also like competition too. You know what I mean? That's when we start really seeing like, okay, this game is competitive. It's not just one big happy family. People are really trying to fight for their position as teacher or whatever, you know, then
Righteous.
out, yeah, who's righteous, who know the most, you know, because back then knowledge was it. So you had to come with that knowledge, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, folks, you know, a lot of stuff like that, you know, people, you know, coming up to us, asking our opinion on certain things, and it was like, okay, wow, you know, now we get a chance to express, you know, how we see the world, how we see the ghetto, how we see, you know, change and things like that. So you know, it was all just happening kind of quick, but we became kind of like leaders in the community, you know, without really, you know what I mean, kind of knowing exactly all what that meant. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we were young, man, you know.
So, can you take me back to this time, a favorite tour lineup and a favorite tour memory to promote that album?
The favorite I think is when we went out with I think it was us, Ice Cube, Too Short, D Nice, Yo Yo, Ghetto Boys, Kid Rock, and I think a couple different dates other people would kind of be, if they was kind of popping in that area, they would join the tour. But I would say that one and the one we did when it was just us and KRS, you know, that one was more like, you know, you out with your big brother and he gonna show you that, he the guy, you know, and we still got a little ways to go. That's how it kind of felt to me. You know what I
Right.
mean? When we was out with him, but when we was out with Ice Cube and I say it was the most diverse crowd, you know, because everybody was there. You know, it's not like how the radio is now, where you just hear more of one thing. You know, when we was out with them, you know, Ice Cube was kicking street knowledge. We was kicking knowledge itself. Too Short was talking about hustling, you know, and the ghetto, you know, just everyday life in the ghetto. And, you know, you had Kid Rock trying to get his feet wet, trying to be a part of the culture. You know, Ghetto Boys was doing their thing. And then you had Yo Yo with the whole, you know, females, you know, we in this too. So, you know, it would be like, do the ladies run the house? And maybe then do the fellas run the house? Her and Ice Cube would do this thing. So it was like everybody, uh, that's when hip hop really started making its mark. You know what I mean? Like, you know, going worldwide and people really starting to accept it on a worldwide, you know, level. So that tour was dope because everybody was there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Once again, no video camera. I probably got like a couple clips, you know, but once again, just being in it, not realizing what was happening. It's like, wait a minute, that's Ice Cube. That's Too Short. He's becoming Too Short because he's coming out of a doghouse, rapping inside of a bone. You know, we coming out with book bags, walking out with books in our hand. It was crazy.
Man.
That's like, yo, what's up?
I
Like, to make a statement like, you know, we bringing knowledge. So we would come out with our book bags and like sometimes Wise would be holding a book the whole time he rapping, you know, it was bananas, you know. And
man.
Ice Cube would come out, you know, with the whole thing with one handcuff on like he just escaped. You know, so it was all those ideals all together in one. So and then different people was coming out to check the tour out. So, you know, I would say that tour probably was the most memorable tour, if I had to say.
You were talking about the sophomore jinx. You guys released Pure Poverty approximately a year after Holy Intellect. Was that to keep the momentum going, or was that pressure from the label to come out with an album so quick?
I believe it was just to keep the momentum going. You know what I mean? Because, you know, back then, you know, sometimes artists, like you said, would take, you know, a few years before they put out another record. But we was on a tour bus listening to more music, you know, creating more music. You know, at this time, you know, me and Shahi was starting to get our hands wet as a producer. You know, we didn't put anything on that album, but we were working on beats and stuff like that. And we was listening to other records that was being put out, because this was the time when, they record labels were signing. They start signing. So it was like, okay, we have to have something ready, and we it was just more about just staying consistent and staying visible, and we were backed up with stuff like material, you know what I mean? So we would record when we came home, write stuff on a tour. And Tony D at that time, he was doing this thing, so he was playing more tracks for us. He was like, "Yo, when y'all come home, or when we got home, we bump into him, and he's giving us more beats and stuff." So, we was just like, "Forget it, let's keep it going." So yeah, Pure Poverty was definitely something where we was like, we got to get, because from Holy Intellect we was in there, but we was still kind of, we still hadn't like firmly planted our feet in the game. So we felt like we needed to come back. And once again, the whole thing with KRS, it was like, the teacher, okay, and then we
Right.
so that kind of thing.
What adjustments did you guys make from Holy Intellect to Pure Poverty, if any, or did you keep the same creative process going?
Some other people, like some dancehall heads from around our
Uh-oh,
way. A
screen
guy named
is
Lego
froze.
Man and Long Man. We linked up with them on a couple of tracks and stuff like that.
Screen froze. Hopefully he'll join me back momentarily. Hope everybody is enjoying the interview so far. What up, my man Twan Mac? I see everybody in the chat right now. Appreciate everybody for joining me this evening. Appreciate that satellite. All right. I see you. All right.
Yeah.
What adjustments did you guys make from a Holy Intellect going into Pure Poverty, if any, or did you keep the same creative process going?
Pretty much the same process. We had an attitude like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We started to incorporate a lot of some of our friends from around our way. We got a little bit more into the dance hall flavor. We had two guys on there by the name of Lego Man and Long Man, which was on uh, what was it? Uh, what was the joint, man? I'm having a little moment. It's having a senior.
Sorry.
It was on Culture Freedom, come back with my apple pie. Easy Star.
Ah,
Yeah, Easy Star. So we put them on Easy Star in a song called Just Serving Justice. And we start doing a little bit more of the dance hall flavor because, from the first record, you kind of feel what people like about you and stuff like that. So they like the way we would do the little chatting and stuff like that in between, the bars and all of that. So we was like, okay, we're going to bring a little bit more of that. And then we give some people some opportunities from our neighborhood, a chance to get on and do stuff like that. So, and we had a little bit more say because we wasn't as new to it, the whole recording process. So we start touching the board a little bit more, stuff like that. And but pretty much Tony D stayed the main producer, and Shy that kept doing what he was doing. And we had another Shakila on there where I was kind of singing the hook and coming in and out of the verse. So we just kind of kept some of the same formula, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we just did that.
when that album dropped, what was the reaction like?
Pure Poverty.
Yes.
It was sort of the same, but not as, because by that time you had some other people coming on that was doing what we was doing, like Brand Nubian and some other artists. So people were spreading the love a little bit more, and but I mean, people by that time, people was like, yo, I think Pure Poverty almost had the same impact, but it's never as when you first come out. You know what I'm saying? It's never quite the same. But Shakila, I think people focus more on, Shakila and Easy Star. Those were the two that people gravitated to the most. You know what I mean? The whole.
Right.
This is just a example of other things that we do daily. We was into that. Doing that whole thing, and people got into that. So I would say that the impact was good. It was like, okay, they still with us, type of thing. The fans ain't going nowhere. People still behind us. So you know,
Were you pleased with that project overall?
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, pretty much, I would say, but as artists, you're always a little bit more critical than the fans. You know what I'm saying? So you see the imperfections, you see the areas where you could have did more, where you wanted to do more. Especially for me, I wanted to do a little bit more, but when you're in a group, you got to find ways to, because it's a democracy. You know what I'm saying? So you got to find ways to get involved without changing, the identity and the sound of what people are familiar with and what they love you for. So, I think by this point, Shy, he wanted to do a little more, a wise, he wanted, to do a little bit, try out a little bit more different things. So we all kind of wanted to grow a little bit more. So I think that record showed growth, because I think lyrically, Wise was just, he just was killing it. Like, you know what I mean? And, you don't hear the critics on your first record. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Reading magazines and they're saying this, they talk about teaching a little bit more than they actually teach. I remember that kind of hurt, when we saw that. So we came back with Strictly Mashing. That's what Strictly Mashing was all about. When he was like, hang this record on the wall at his gold state, would have been holy intellect, but most pro-devils perpetrate, hate to be neglected when we're besting out a record. On that, I could just tell he was like, yo, nah.
Right.
So we was like, we Strictly Mashing, you know what I mean? So that was like the single we wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because we wanted to let people know that, we ain't going nowhere. Forget what the critics say. We gonna mash up the place. So that was our, pretty much, that was the mantra behind that record. We the real thing. And,
Right.
nobody liked to be bullied. You know what I'm saying? So we wasn't. We was just trying to let the industry know. We ain't going nowhere. You know.
Uh, Going into your third album, Black Business, you guys decided to take a 2-year hiatus. And what's going on with the group at this time? And is the label still giving you support?
The label pretty much was still giving us support. It was, folks get married, having kids, other aspects in life, other things you want to do, because up to this point, it's touring, it's shows, it's recording, it's touring, it's interviews, it's business, 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 trying to feed this thing that you sparked. You know what I mean? And you trying to do that. And then the title itself, Black Business, we're thinking like, it's good to be heard and it's good to get your point across and let people know that you're proud to be who you are. But at the core of it, economics is the thing. We got to start owning things in our community. We got to start taking ownership, you know, uh, having our own labels and things like that. Artists start talking about those kind of things,
Would you
and
consider would you consider at this point this the group's most successful album?
Black Business.
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure. I mean, I know a lot of people like it. You know what I mean? But I still would say Holy Intellect is between, to me personally, is between Holy Intellect and New World Order. You know what I mean? Those are the records to me. Like, just when I look in at the fans in their eyes, and when I hear them talking about it, like the most impactful records, like those are the two that I hear people talk about. I mean, they still mention the other ones, but Black Business for us, that's when me and Shaheed started producing more. And then we started, as a group, we start taking on, the production, and, we start stepping up to the board and recording songs, some of the songs like uh Black Business. I mean, not like Nobody Move, which was
Right.
produced by Father Shaheed. Get Off the Crack. None Contest was the one that I produced. And I started stepping up to the mic a little bit more. So it was more about a creative thing. Like, where are we creatively on our own without, having this person to do this and this person to do that, and Tony D kind of, giving up a little bit of control, you know, and which he didn't really kind of tell us what to do, but he was the main guy, like, with being on the board and stuff. So it was more about that for us. It's like, okay, we need to start stepping up and producing these records, you know, and it was more about that. So that's where the whole Black Business, like, take ownership, but that record was pretty much, it was well received, but I can't really say it was the most successful, but, I mean, maybe people know something I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys took the longest you ever took to record the New World Order. You took 3 years off. What's going on during that time going into the fourth album?
Pretty much more the same. Everybody's doing different things, we went from being like 18 and 19 to like 23, 24, 25, being married, having children. Uh, some of the focus is changing a little bit. The world is changing, music is changing. Now you have the whole bad boy movement, you know, the whole money, power, respect, and shiny suits, and that whole thing going on. And our mindset on that record is what's coming next. From all the studying and all the reading, and watching all the lectures by Sheikh Anta Diop and Henry Clark and all of that stuff. What's coming next. New world order, one world government. This is where our mind is. So we're on stock your goods up, get your family ready, stay out the way. We're thinking more like that. So if you listen to the record and how it's set up, it's more of a blueprint on how to go into the whole new world order and how to get yourself prepared and watch out for, all the setups. So our mindset is more like that, protecting our family, protecting our community from outside forces, and things like that. So that's more where our head is, just doing that and just providing, and seeing it really, really for what it is now. You know what I mean? Because it's no more just recording the record and handing it to you. In between that time, we're trying to set up our own record labels and all of that stuff. But, it's like, okay, you want another record? This is what it's going to sound like. you know,
Right.
like it's, by that time, PE is dropping Fear of a Black Planet, so everybody is like kind of feeling like, things are changing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like gentrification is taking place, people being pushed out, so we like, and at that time, rappers was like the CNN of the hood. You know what I'm saying? If you had a voice, you use your voice to encourage people, to educate people, to inform people on what was going on. So, our whole thing the whole time was we were combined with two kinds of rhyme, trying to reach you. The knowledge of myself makes me a poor righteous teacher. So we was like on one tip, we was trying to get you to dance. We realized how important that was. But on the other side, it was like, while we got you dancing, let's give them some information. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
with the New World Order, we was just like, that was another moment, I would say, like recording Holy Intellect, where we was just focused. You know, everybody was like, yo, let's do this. Let's put these skits in here. You know, by this time we're cutting the record with the Fugees. You know what I mean? We got Sluggy Ranks on the record. We got Junior Reed, One Blood. You know what I mean? We're like, we not playing with this record. You know what I'm saying? We got Nine on there, and we kind of laying groundwork for, you know, we wasn't mad at the whole Get Money thing, because we realized that, you know, it's important, you know, because all revolutions have to be financed. You know what I'm saying? So we realized that Get Money wasn't a bad thing, but at the same time, don't sell your soul, don't sell out. You know, we got to be ready for what's coming ahead. So our whole thing was like, well, let's lay the blueprint to what it was, you know, like what, let's not lose focus on the fundamentals and what it's all about. So with New World Order, that record for me is like one of the, you know, the most powerful in terms of the message, because it was like no joking. Like, we don't know what the year 2000 and all of that is going to be. Like, you know, a lot of people going into that thinking, you know, the computer system going to shut down and all of that, Y2K. So we was like, let's get people aware of what's going to happen. So it was more prophetic. That record to me was probably the most prophetic record that we did, in terms of, because you see a lot of what we was talking about happening right now.
Right. Being released in the shiny suit era, how was it received? Do you think it got lost in the shuffle? Did it go over people's heads, or was it well received?
I don't think it went over people's head, because like anything, if you play it long enough and you expose people to it long enough, they'll eventually get it. I just think that it was just, the industry's changed a little bit. You know, radio stations start, you know, you have radio programmers now. You know, before the DJ, he was the radio programmer. He picked what he thought that people was going to like, or what he wanted to play. At this point, it was like, you know, you heard the same 4 or 5 records over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? And then Profile, they decided to sell the label, like, you know, after the first single. You know what I mean? So it was like, then we were trying to find out, you know, what our new home was going to look like, or if we was even moving in, so to speak, you know. So it was all of those things going on. So, you know, we were still doing shows and stuff, but, you know, by this time, you know, a lot of the crowd was, you know, into this whole, you know, some
I
more,
know.
you know what I'm saying? You
Right.
like, you know, so we were just like, you know, hey, you know, let's wait and see. You know, we're gonna put this out, we're gonna push it, but at the same time, we're gonna get ourselves ready for whatever's coming. You know, we didn't want to fall into that trap. You know, so, and we definitely wasn't about to start, you know, shiny suiting it up, or, you know, changing our vibe. You know, because it was who we were. You know what I mean? So it was just.
Right.
Uh, I just like right now, with the whole, you know, everybody saying they woke and all this other stuff with this whole internet thing, that now people can actually see what was what, you know, because I believe that, you know, time is the master of all illusions. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you had a lot of people saying it was this, saying it was that, and time will reveal who you really are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, you know, I just, you know, say we still standing on the same truth we stood on back then, you know, and people are starting to see the manifestation of that truth. You know, that, you know, if we want anything in this country, we got to fight for it. And you can't, if you can't get what you want if you don't know who you are, you know.
Right.
So I mean, people are starting to see it. So it's a beautiful time, you know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that, you know, I'm around to see it. You know, I'm
Uh,
glad Wise is around to see it. And we starting to see people saying, hey man, you know, y'all music changed my life, or this and that and that and that. And we like, okay, where, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'm just glad, you know, everybody is like, everybody has some form of consciousness right now, because knowledge has been increased. And if you want to know, you know, you're just a fingertip away from really finding out, if you want to research. Back then, you had to have books. You had to be in certain places. You had to know certain people. And now you can sit in your home and find certain things out. You got to weave through a lot of the nonsense, but still you can.
I don't mean to cut you off. Instagram's going to cut me off in like 15 seconds. I'm going to log off. If you can join me back here in about 5 seconds.
All right, cool.
All right, everybody join me back. This is about to cut off, so I'll be right back in about 5 seconds. Appreciate everybody.